Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Muhammad Dipo Hasbi from class 33 4B07 with student number 33220176. Now I'm going to show you my listening comprehension. Let's continue to the part 1. Part 1. The planet Mars, or red planet, has the possibility of life according to speculation based on the observation for hundreds of years. Italian astronomer Giovanni Schiaparelli mapped the canals of Mars in 1877. In Italian, canali means channels as it was gradually developed with imagination of planet-wide irrigation system like the idea of Earth-like planet but colder and drier. 1960 NASA mission images shows very different. Cratered moon like Mars, the polar caps and atmosphere turn out full of pure CO2. Mars became very interesting because it had volcanoes, maze of canyons, and showed of having flowing water in distant past. The possibility of life on Mars is not the 100% or 0%. It could be hiding under the rock. So, scientists start to look under the Martian rocks. The Viking mission in 1976 carried three experiments, but none of these three are successful because the experiments were flawed. And then we human discovered a meteorite in Antarctica in 1984. It contained the evidence of life on Mars, and all the evidence are strong proof of existence of life in Mars. Now continue to the part 2. The general idea of the nature of no theater of Japan. No is difficult to categorize. It is some kind of stylized drama based on dance and song, which was formalized some 600 years ago. Not all Japanese could understand the language in no dialogue. The main actor wears some distinctive mask. The pleasure of watching Noh is in quiet, elegant visual and auditory beauty of the performance. The history is the history of Noh is very well documented. Sangaku, a whole entertainment of acrobatic, sing, and dance, arrived from China in 8th century. They often perform in festival and become very popular. There is presently a repertoire of over 200 Noh plays, divided into two categories: Genzei no or realistic no and Mugen no or fantasy no. In realistic no, the main character is a real person and action takes place in real time. The typical topic is the portrayal of the main character's inner emotions in a dramatic setting. In contrast to Mugen no, fantasy now has a supernatural main figure, such as demon, deity, ghost, or anything like. The subjects are largely from ancient literature. The most popular Mugen is Lady Aoi. Her narrative originates from 8th from an 11th century books. Now we continue to part 3. Part 3. There are two types of visual perspective: aerial perspective and linear perspective. Aerial perspective and aerial just means air or atmospheric, not the view from an airplane. It's the way that the atmosphere influences how we perceive things, particularly distant things. I won't get into the physics rule, but aerial perspective causes a distant mountain to look a different color, make it appear hazier, less distinct than nearby things. They are the effect that realistic painters try to replicate precisely, and impressionists employ to create their own effects. Consider several of Turner's landscape or cityscapes, such as Dido building cottage to get an understanding. The other choice perspective, linear perspective, is how things appear to shrink as they grow farther away. A famous example is how we view train tracks or a line of telephone poles moving away from us. They appear to shrink in size as they recede, eventually disappearing in a point on the horizon known as the vanishing point. The effect occurs when there are parallel lines, such as two rail tracks or the tops and bottom of telephone poles. The types of perspective are obvious when we look at geometrical objects or man-made buildings, but nature situations do not have any sets of parallel lines. Thus, there are no vanishing point, but that doesn't seem imply that they don't have perspective. And it's all for today. Listening comprehension from me. Thank you and goodbye.